We're going to explore the world of rare earth elements today with James Kenny, CEO of Frontier Rare Earths, which recently came to the Toronto Stock Exchange. James, can you give us a quick introduction to Frontier?
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Yeah, Frontier is a company which was established in 2002 to develop a portfolio of exploration assets in Southern Africa. And since 2005, we've focused on rare earth elements in South Africa, and our company's flagship asset is the Zandkopsdrift rare earth deposit in the Northern Cape province of South Africa. We advanced the project, as I said, over the last several years, but from a financing perspective moved to a new level when we listed on the main board of the Toronto Stock Exchange last November.
Okay, and on that listing, you raised around 60 million Canadian. Can you just tell us a little bit about the shareholder structure?
Yeah, the shareholder structure, we actually raised slightly over 60, approximately 62 million. The shareholder structure of that raise was a full treasury issue, so it was all new shares, and the 62 million was, roughly speaking, broken down 10 to 12 million retail and approximately 50 million went into institutional hands. The institutional investors numbered just over 40 in total, spread across UK, Europe, predominantly Canada and the US.
Now, your key asset, Zandkopsdrift in South Africa, how does it stand out against other companies in the sector? There's a lot of companies running around saying they've got world-class projects. What makes yours world-class?
It's a very good question, and obviously the rising rare earth prices have attracted a lot of new entrants into the sector, or old projects being dusted off. I think what sets our project out, Zandkopsdrift, is that in terms of the size of the resource, the grade of the resource, the distribution or spread of rare earth elements that we have are certainly stand comparison with the very best and the very largest project out there.
Okay, and this project, how did it come about to your company? And your family's got a lot of history in South Africa. Was that a connection there, picking it up?
Well, you're right. My first involvement in the natural resource sector in South Africa dates back to 1994. My brother, my father, we were all involved in the natural resource sector in one shape or another. We went down to South Africa initially encouraged by the country's obvious abundance of natural resources, but I suppose spurred at that time by the end of the apartheid era, one of the effects of which was there was no junior mining industry in South Africa. So just after the first democratic elections, we got on a plane and we made some very good connections, in particular with a South African geologist who had worked particularly in the west coast of South Africa for, at this stage, in excess of 50 years. So we've built a lot of very good links, and other companies we've been involved with have built several mines in this part of South Africa.
Okay, it's really interesting. Could you just give us a little bit of a rundown on a key question for all rare earth companies seems to be radioactivity. Can you talk through the uranium, thorium levels in your project?
It's a very good question. It's a very topical question. Where you get rare earth elements, you also get radioactive elements, and those two are principally thorium and uranium. And I think you need to look at the levels of radioactivity in two ways. Is it high in absolute terms? And a radioactivity level which is high in one country may be deemed low in another country. We're very fortunate, however, in that our absolute and relative levels of thorium and uranium are very low, and they won't prove, we believe, an impediment to the development of the project.
Okay, so just moving on from radioactivity, can you tell us a little bit about the distribution of the rare earth elements at the project?
Yeah, it's again another important point to raise, because rare earths is quite unique insofar as there are 15 different elements which make up what people generally describe as rare earth elements, and they are broken down into 5 light rare earths and 10 heavy rare earths. Important thing to understand is that these 15 elements occur together. So one deposit doesn't get 5 and another deposit gets 10 of them. They all occur together, but what does differ is the concentrations or relative distribution by element differs from deposit to deposit. We're actually quite fortunate in that we're initially starting off with a high-grade deposit, but within that, the breakdown of our grade is made up, I think, of an attractive absolute grade of what we would classify as the more attractive, more valuable, scarcer rare earth elements. I mean, I call them, somewhat a cliched way, the big 5. And those are 2 light rare earth elements, neodymium, praseodymium, and 3 heavy rare earth elements, europium, dysprosium, and terbium. And so I think we have a very high grade of those, and that all leads to, I think, be a higher basket price for what we will produce.
Okay, that's really interesting. So investors should really be looking at those 5 metals more often than probably they do.
I think it is. They're probably the 5, I think, that have the best supply-demand dynamic,
Okay.
and probably the best outlook. What investors need to understand is that when you're looking at projects, and you look at 2 projects with the same overall grade, they could have very different valuations, very different NPVs, because the distribution of the grade is different. So 2 deposits, both which have 2% grade, could have a very different valuation because one has a better concentration of the more valuable elements than the other.
Okay, it's really interesting. So what should we be looking out for over the next 18 months from Frontier?
We've got a very busy program over the next 18 months, and I think what we would expect to achieve is, in terms of the initial project economics being put into the public domain at the back end of Q3 by way of our preliminary economic assessment or scoping study. That'll follow probably within 3 to 4 months later by our pre-feasibility study, and that'll be followed in turn by our definitive or bankable feasibility study by the end of 2012. So for the next 18 months we've got 3 very significant milestones, catalysts, if you like, and importantly we're fully funded to carry out all of that work.
That's great. Thanks very much, James.
You're welcome.